Hey folks, welcome back to Anytime History, and today we'll be counting down the 7 most expensive wars in modern history. Now I know a lot of other channels have covered this topic before, but they don't really adjust for inflation because a dollar in 1992 was not the same as a dollar in 1861. So the value of a dollar is different on different times. So I have adjusted the amount for inflation and then giving you a list that, in my opinion, should be the 7 most expensive wars in modern history. So enjoy. At number 7, we have American Civil War, 1861 to 1865. Uh, it costed around $80 billion at that time, and when it was adjusted to inflation as per the 2017 inflation index, it cost 1.136 trillion US dollars. Fought between the United States and the Confederate States of America, caused due to the issue of federal right versus the state rights. The final straw that broke the camel's back in this case was when Abraham Lincoln was elected as the president not in spite him not being on the ballot of 10 southern states and his reputation for being an anti-slavery leader, thus challenging the southern way of life. In 1863, the Union was victorious, abolishing slavery and giving around 4 million slaves their freedom, thus ending the American Civil War. Right, so at number 6 we have War on Terror or post 9/11. The war started in 2001 and is technically still going on as United States still has its troops in Afghanistan and are still fighting many terrorist factions all around the globe right now. But we have taken it until 2015 as that's the year when most of its expenses were made, and we have also taken 2008 as the inflation index point because that's the year when most of its expenses were made. So this war has total costed 1.681 trillion US dollars up to 2015, and which when adjusted to inflation costs around 1.884 trillion in 2017. The war was mostly fought between the United States and its allies against terrorist factions all over the globe, but mainly Al Qaeda and ISIS. The war was in retaliation of the terror attacks in New York and Washington, D.C., mainly the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and the failed attempt on White House, which costed over 3,000 deaths. The war still going on, as I said earlier, but a great symbolic victory was achieved on May 2nd, 2011, when the leader of Al Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, was killed in a military operation led by the then United States President Barack Hussein Obama. So, in at number 5, we have the Spanish American War of 1898. The war costed around 9 billion US dollars in 1898, which, when adjusted to inflation, costs around 2.5 trillion US dollars in 2017. Fought between the United States and Spain in 1898 after the initial explosion of the USS Maine in the Hawaiian harbor, forcing United States to enter the Cuban War of Independence. The war lasted around 10 weeks and was the first time the United States got involved in a global conflict, which clearly is not the last time. The war officially ended on December 10th, 1898, when the Treaty of Paris was signed, giving Cuba its independence and Guam and Puerto Rico to the United States of America. In at number 4, we have the Vietnam War, fought between 1954 to 1975. It costed around 738 million US dollars at that time, which when adjusted to inflation cost around 3.311 trillion in 2017. This is a conflict that is completely born out of the Cold War, as the French-backed South was fighting the Communist-backed North at that time, and the United States was not willing to let another country fall into communism, so they entered the war backing the South on March 8, 1965. but by March 29, 1973, the US had had enough losses and were willing to withdraw their troops as per the Paris Peace Accords, and finally on the 30th April 1975 the South surrendered, and that was the end for the conflict, and Vietnam fell into communist rule. In at number 3 we have the Korean War, fought between 1950 to 1953. It costed around 341 billion US dollars at the time, which when adjusted to inflation costs around 3.415 trillion as per 2017. Fought between the Soviet and Chinese backed North Korea and the US and its allies backed South. So Korea got its independence in 1945 after Japan was defeated in the Second World War. So subsequently, the Korean Peninsula was divided into two. The above the 30th parallel was the North Korea, and below it was the South. The Soviet Union established a communist government north of the line, whereas United States established a democratic government south of the line. So on June 25th, 1950, 75,000 Northern soldiers crossed the 38th parallel and attacked the South. Fearing another country falling into communist rule, United States entered the war. So this is another war that is just clearly spawned out of the Cold War, just like the Vietnam War, and it has no real cause for its start. But on 1953, after the US politician and soldier D. Eisenhower threatened the nuclear attack, both sides were able to come to an agreement and a peace treaty was signed on July 27th. So in at number 2 we have the First World War, fought between 1914 to 1918. It costed 334 billion US dollars at the time, which when counted for inflation costs 5.339 trillion US dollars in 2017. Fought between the Allied power, the United Kingdom, France, Russia, Italy, Japan, against the Central Powers, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Turkish Empire, and Germany. After the assassination of Archduke of Austria Franz Ferdinand on June 28, 1914, on July 28, 1914, 1 month after the assassination, the Austro-Hungarian Empire declared war on the Kingdom of Serbia, followed by Germany declaring war on Russia and France on 1st and 3rd August respectively, and on 4th, United Kingdom declared war on Germany, and by February 4th, 1915, entire Europe was at war. In October of 1918, Turkey signed an armistice, followed by the Austro-Hungarian Empire on November 3rd, and finally on 11th November at 11 a.m., the Germans signed the armistice, ending the conflict. And in at number 1 we have the Second World War, the bloodiest conflict in human history, fought between 1939 to 1945. It costed a whopping 1.75 trillion US dollars at that time, which when adjusted to inflation today costs 14.414 trillion in 2017. Fought between the Allied power and the Axis power. This was the most widespread war in human history after Nazis invaded Poland on September 1st, 1939, and thus the British, France, Australia, and New Zealand declared war on Germany on September 3rd, followed by Italy declaring war on France and Britain on June 10, 1940, and on July 22, 1941, Germany invaded the Soviet Union, and in December 7, 1941, Japan attacked United States. On September 8, 1943, Italy surrendered after Mussolini was dethroned of power, whereas Germany surrendered on 29th April on the western end and 4th May on the eastern end, while Berlin surrendered on 2nd May after Hitler committed suicide on April 30th, 1945, whereas Japan surrendered on September 2nd, 1945, following the United States dropping the A-bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki on 6th and 9th August respectively. So folks, there are the 7 most expensive wars in modern history. If you want me to talk about a particular topic regarding history, you can always write it in the comment section and I'll try to cover as much as I can. I'll be completing the Joan of Arc series, the second and third part of that, fairly recently within the month of March. And till then, have a nice day and good luck.